Hey friend, Heather Creekmore here. I'm glad you're listening to the Compared to Who show today. Today, we are talking about something that you can do to be healthier. And I know that's a loaded word for some of you, but something you can do to be healthier that has absolutely nothing to do with weight loss or what you eat or how you exercise. Oh, y'all, it is so simple. So my friend Erin Kerry, she's been a longtime friend. She's been on the show a number of times. She's an integrative nutrition health coach, is on the show with me today. She's here to help me break down what this one thing is that we can do to feel healthier this summer and maybe all year round, depending on where you live. You can connect with Erin at Sparking Wholeness. She's a great podcast there. You might want to go check it out. I'll also link in show notes to some of the other episodes I've done with Erin. She's a survivor of bipolar, and I think her story will really inspire you. Before we dig in today, though, I want to let you know that I'm doing something I've never done before. I am offering a super discounted rate for coaching this summer only. I'm only offering it between June the 20th and July 28th. So it's a really short window, but because I'm working on getting my books ready, I've got a new book coming out for y'all December of this year, and I'm working on a course that's going to start. Hopefully we're going to launch that course this fall. So I've got this brief window, and I would love the opportunity just to work with you, just a session or two. If you want this summer, just a little bit of help in your journey, this is the time to take advantage of this super low price on coaching. So go check that out. You can go to improvebodyimage.com or comparedtowho.me. Either place, go to the coaching tab and you'll find out more. Now let's dig into today's show. Welcome to Compared to Who, the podcast to help you make peace with your body so you can savor God's rest and feel His love. If you're tired of fighting body image the world's way, Compared to Who is the show for you. You've likely heard lots of talk about loving your body, but my goal is different. Striving to fall in love with stretch marks and cellulite is a little silly to me. Instead, I want to encourage you and remind you with the truth of Scripture that you are seen, you are known, and you are loved no matter what your size or shape. Here, the pressure is off. If you're looking for real talk, biblical encouragement, and regular reminders that God loves you and you're not alone, you've come to the right place. I hope you enjoy today's show, and hey, tell a friend about it. Erin Kerry, thanks for being on the Compared to You show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to have this conversation.
Yeah, so I was out in the sun the other day, and I'll just be honest with you, and you and I, we've had this talk before, but I feel like when I am outside in the summer, it makes me a different person. It re-energizes me. It's like I'm like my cell phone being plugged in when I go outside in the sun. And then I start to notice my nails grow again and my hair grows again. And I was thinking about this reality that in some kind of strange anecdotal way, although I think you're going to go beyond just anecdotal, but for me, anecdotally, being in the sun improves my body image. So is there something more to that? That's where I want to go today. So Erin, talk to me. Like, why do I feel so much better in the summer when I'm out in the sun?
Yeah, I do too. I'm more of a beach girl than a mountain girl. Like I just need the sun. And I always say similarly, I need to be recharged by the sun. It's like a cell phone charger. My battery's dying. I need to be plugged in. And I think there is something to that. I mean, if you think about it, even like from way, way back in the old days, people worship the sun. Why did they worship the sun? They considered it source. They considered it source of life. In a lot of ways it is, not enough to be worshiped, but it's definitely, there's something to it that for so many years, we've always, felt that what you feel on an internal level, just, okay, I feel better when I'm in the sun. What is that? And one of the reasons, and I'll just touch on one because there are a lot of amazing benefits of the sun, but we do make vitamin D in our skin when it is exposed to sunlight. And during these summer months, I would say, I think it's about like March to September. That's when you think about bears loading up for the hibernation of the winter. Our skin needs to load up on that vitamin D to withstand those other times of year, because there's certain seasons where the sun is at a different angle in the sky, and it helps our skin to produce vitamin D in a different way. And it's a really cool process. It's a protective. I mean, I think all of our internal processes are fascinating because they are so intricately designed in a way to help support us and help us to serve our purpose into the day, right? Like we all have big purposes to serve, to glorify God and to live out his calling in our lives and all of that. And getting vitamin D through skin, through the sun, is just one way we can make that happen. And the other cool thing about vitamin D, if we're just going to go down the vitamin D rabbit trail for a little bit, it does help to restore gut barrier function. It helps to prevent against what we would call enhanced intestinal permeability. And enhanced intestinal permeability is what some people refer to as leaky gut. It's when the lining of our intestines gets broken down and it causes maybe some bacterial debris to get lost in the bloodstream, creating all sorts of inflammatory issues in the body. But what I think is really important is a lot of our neurotransmitters, like serotonin, are produced by the gut. So when we have good, strong barrier function from vitamin D, from the sun, we are able to better produce something like serotonin, which is going to improve our mood, keep us less anxious, keep us less depressed. It's going to help even with bowel movements and bowel regularity, which is really important as well. And it enhances so many parts of our life. And so, yeah, so we're going to feel better about ourselves. Yeah. And so they're just, I mean, if you can think of it as like, I picture it, I'm a very visual person, so I can almost picture it as a map, like this arrow here leads to this, which leads to this, which leads to this. And it does start with the sun, but it also assumes that our body is going to be in the sun, receiving the benefits of the sun. And right now we have a lot of things against us. We're not getting direct sunlight the way our ancestors did for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go there in a second, but I just want to back up to the basics. So it's funny because I think I would have told you for decades, like the reason I feel better in the sun is because I get tan and I feel better about my body. When my body gets tan. And I know that's not true for everyone, but I'm a tanner. And so that's what I would have said was doing it. But I think the reality that you just laid out is what's really true. Like it's actually something internal that is happening with my serotonin, with, the feel good release is coming from that time in the sun. So then the reason I wanted to do this episode was I just love the fact that as we think about improving body image, right? What does everyone think they have to do? Oh, I've got to lose weight. Or I've got to, I mean, there's a few of you listening that have to gain weight, or that's what you feel like you have to do. But for the majority, it's I got to lose weight. I got to change this part. I got to fix this part. And it's like, we've said on the show a zillion times, right? The body image issues are internal issues, right? These are issues of the heart. But there is a physical component to feeling good, right? And what if, instead of you needing to start a new diet this summer to feel good, what if it's as simple as just going outside and getting some sunshine? I mean, Erin, it sounds too easy, right?
It is too easy and you can't bottle it up and sell it. And that's the problem, right? Like this is just available for free all the time. And I've noticed even with my coaching clients, when I recommend something as simple as taking 2 minutes a day to stop and breathe and practice breath work, it's free, it's easy, anybody can do it. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, you're right.
Easy, free things that are the hardest ones to do. So something like, I mean, even if we're not going to get out in the full sun at the full, peak time of day to really get the vitamin D, and there are different times of the day that vitamin D production is going to be stronger, but even waking up in the morning and facing your eyes toward where the sun is rising and getting that sunlight into your eyes, it stimulates your pineal gland, which can help you to produce serotonin again, but it helps to switch over to melatonin within, I think it's like 14 hours after you first get that sunlight into your eyes. So it can even regulate your sleep cycle and how well you're sleeping, how deeply you're sleeping. When we are sleeping better, we're feeling better too. That's another integral part that can't bottle it up and sell it. And I mean, we've got all sorts of sleep supplements and supports on the market, but sometimes good optimal sleep happens just by getting morning sun. Right when you wake up, get out there, put your feet in the grass, look out into where the sun is rising, pray a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for another day. And just that is going to send a cascade of biochemicals throughout your body to help support your body for the rest of the day. And it's so countercultural because we got things to do.
It is. It's like, wait, no, can't I just take a pill, Erin?
Right. Or can I just go do a really intense workout? Let me just
Yeah.
go to the gym and get that artificial light in my eyes and all the
Mm,
screens. Oh, there's nothing more dysregulating for my, now I'm wondering if it's ADHD brain. I could self-diagnose with all the things, but it really dysregulates me being in a gym on the treadmill and the sounds and the screens and all
mm,
that. When if I just would go outside and take some deep breaths. The other cool
yeah.
thing about even vitamin D production, which I didn't mention earlier, is that vitamin D can sensitize receptors and regulate balance of steroid hormones, which
Okay.
steroid hormones, those are stress hormones,
Like
right?
your
These are the things.
cortisol and
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, even thinking about being in the sunshine as a de-stressing activity.
hold that thought, Erin. I can't wait to hear more about this. And we'll be right back after this break.
Looking to give your child a well-rounded education while ensuring positive socialization opportunities and their ability to succeed in life? Consider joining Classical Conversations community and homeschooling alongside local families. Led by a trained licensed director, families learn through Classical Conversations' proven Christ-centered curriculum together in a community. With locations in all 50 states and over 50 countries, there is bound to be a community near you. To find your community today, visit classicalconversations.com/compared to who.
We are just up in our heads all the time. And just the negative thoughts about, I mean, we've talked about this for years and years, the negative body thoughts and what that does, even downstream effects in the body, and how negativity can break down the gut lining and
Mm-hmm.
decrease secretory IgA production in the gut. That's our
Mm-hmm.
barrier. That's our immune system protection.
Mm,
Negative thoughts alone and stress can do that.
yeah.
And so, it's all these things that are free and
Right.
God provided so much support in place by emphasizing gratitude and
Mm,
emphasizing meditation and being still with the Lord. And we're like, ah, no, I'm just going to go do my Orange Theory workout, and that's how I'm going to start my day, when that might just dysregulate us more. But you
yeah.
could step outside, take a deep breath, look towards the sun, and you're going to get a lot of
Yeah.
regulation that's going to last throughout your day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just to be clear, I know you work out inside sometimes
Yes.
too,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Like there's
Right.
nothing against going to the
Yes.
gym,
And
but
I do. Yeah.
it's just if it's just too simple, right? And I have the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. Some days it's a beautiful day. I mean, Texas, we've got this like window where it's actually cool enough to be outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of
Mm-hmm.
comes and goes, but it's like we can generally count on like April and May having like a couple hours where it's like, oh, I could go exercise outside because it's not ridiculous yet.
Mm-hmm.
But having that choice, it's like, oh, I could go outside and take a walk in the sunshine, or I could just like get on my indoor bike or go do something indoor. And recognizing, at least I have like, oh, but when I go outside, the benefits of how I feel after even just taking a walk in the
Mm-hmm.
sunshine are so vastly different than how I feel when I get off my indoor cycling bike or, get out of an indoor class. It's ridiculous. And yet so simple. So Erin, okay. You're saying we need to get out in the sun. I totally agree. Like feel it, need it. But what about the skin cancer threat? I mean,
Yeah.
what do we do about that? I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to go out in the sun because maybe they've had a skin cancer scare or someone in their family has had a skin cancer scare. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, gotta stay out of the sun completely. Like, what's helpful to know in that
Yeah, it's a good
mix?
question because there are a couple of schools of thought right now, and I think more and more is going to come out as we as more research studies are done, but we're seeing a lot of sunscreens being pulled off the shelves because of cancer warnings. Right? So the very
Yeah.
things that were supposed to protect us from skin cancer are carcinogenic. You can go on the Environmental Working Group and you can see their reports on safe sunscreens to use. And yeah, I think it's important to be, know that your skin is a giant mouth and anything you absorb into your skin can have an impact on your body. And one of the issues with sunscreens is that it does block vitamin D from being absorbed in the skin. Again, we're talking about skin level absorption and utilization of what is essentially a hormone. And we call it vitamin D, but it's really more of a hormone that we produce in our body. And so sunscreen will block that. Okay, but yes, skin cancer is a thing. And most, I would say 4 out of the 5 members of my family, we tan very easily, can get out in the sun, no problem. One family member would burn to a crisp and never be, well, she calls herself a vampire because she never gets out in the sun anymore because she's burned one too many times. I get that. Very real concern. So I think the best thing to do, and there you can look on, there are different apps that do this. One of the apps that I use is called D-Minder. You can tell like where the vitamin D is going to be strongest. And it even tells you where to get safe sun exposure and what your time limit for that is. I use that. I think if you're in the sun for a little bit unexposed, especially when it gets to the hot summer months, it does not take long to get 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. It might take 35 minutes. Now, for me, 35 minutes, I'm not going to burn. For somebody else, 35 minutes, that might risk burning. So you have to, it's very individualized. But I do think, even ancestrally speaking, we were not, this whole modern concept of sitting out in the sun for hours and hours. And yes, it's recreational and it's fun, but back in the olden days, they took breaks when it was the hottest, right? And then they covered themselves. They wore hats, they wore gloves, they wore long sleeves to prevent from burning. And we just go out there for this hardcore exposure, and it does cause free radical damage. It does cause oxidative stress in the body, and the body has to work really hard to counter against that. So there's a balance. So we want to get some exposure, and each person, that's going to be very individual, but we also want to protect our skin. If you're feeling like you're burning, or if you think, it's feeling hot, and everybody knows that feeling if you're about to get a sunburn, get in the shade, or put on a hat, put on, the long sleeve swim shirts or whatever it is, that can be really helpful. But we do have to have some kind of sunlight, and it just might be earlier in the day. It might not be at 2 p.m. in the middle of summer. That could be too much for some people. So it really depends. There are some cool studies. I have to throw this out here because I think your listeners are going to like this. So there's a study done, and I wish I could reference it. Maybe I'll find it. Maybe you can add it to the show notes, on cacao, right? We all know cacao is cocoa powder, chocolate. There's a study done. It was about 12 weeks of 2 tablespoons of cacao powder a day reduces sun sensitivity. So that speaks to the fact that the antioxidants that we get from our food, and they've done it with tomatoes too, tomato products, that they are so powerful at countering that oxidative stress that it can help make our skin more resilient. So that's another option too, is just up your dark chocolate, right?
I love this show. Eat more dark chocolate. You can stay in the sun longer. Like this is the best remedy ever.
Wouldn't that be perfect? Oh, I don't know. I will say we tried this out last year. We were going to go to Miami in early May, and our skin was not ready for Miami in early May, and so I started probably about February, because it was right around when I read this. February, March, I added about a tablespoon of cacao powder to my coffee every day, blended it up. It was delicious. It was like my own little mocha, right? Did that every single day. And I did not burn in Miami. Now, I was careful. I did all the things that I'm talking about here. But I don't know. I have to wonder if there's something to that, bumping up the antioxidant load. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, so you put some information about that it's called D-Minder app, and I'll put the link to that in show notes. And so I grabbed it right away. Someone in your comments, we probably should have talked about this before recording, but someone in your comments said something, and maybe you can give this some validity or not validated at all, said something about like, if you don't wear sunglasses for a little bit of time, that it helps your body know not to burn or something.
That's true. Yeah, there is something. Now, I have not gone down that rabbit hole. That's why I forgot about that comment, because I was going to respond. I don't even think I actually responded. Sometimes that happens, It's just, there's lots of comments, lots of things going on. And probably a kid did something. I had to go run and rescue him. Anyway, but yeah, there is something about that, about how it has to do with the pineal gland again, that when you wear the sunglasses, that can interrupt the process as well. And so that's something I have not done as much research digging into that, but there are a lot of people out there that are bringing more awareness to that factor, that all these things that we do to protect ourselves might actually be stopping this natural process that God designed to protect us and to keep us healthy.
Well, the D-Minder app, so I've been using it for a couple of weeks now, and a couple of very interesting things. So I know that I am, and we don't have to geek out too far on this, Erin, but I know that I have MTHFR and all these other things. So bottom line, if that sounds like I'm saying some weird swear word or something. Bottom line is, I know that my body has a hard time processing vitamin D. Like, I just do not get enough vitamin D. And I will supplement with, the 5,000 IU vitamin D pills from Costco or whatever. And I will supplement what I feel like is a lot. And I'll go into my doctor and they'll be like, and I'll tell them how much I'm taking. And they'll be like, whoa, you're taking way too much. And I'll be like, check my vitamin D. And they'll check my vitamin D and it'll just be like barely like
Yeah.
in the acceptable range. So I know I can just take gobs of pills and it doesn't really do a whole lot in the same way that the sun does. So I started using the
Yes.
D-Minder app, and it's so fascinating because it does tell you exactly how much you're getting. Like, you put in your address, and so it knows like where the sun is in your geography. I don't think it knows the weather though. I think you have to tell it the weather.
I think it does know the weather. I think
Does it know the
it'll tell the UV what the level
UV
of the rays
exposure.
are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then you tell it how much your skin is covered.
Mhm.
And then at 20 minutes, it's like, you should probably really go inside now, or you should flip over. At
Yeah.
least for me,
Yeah.
that's what and maybe that's relative based on like where you live or what time of day it is. But yeah, I love being able to see, oh, I'm getting this much vitamin D. And I really do feel like it makes a difference.
Yeah. You mentioned something, and I think that that's really important. There are different genetic SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. It's like MTHFR, or there's a vitamin D receptor SNP. Basically, that it's just a way that your genes are expressing to be able to convert vitamin D, use vitamin D, absorb vitamin D or not. And I am one of those people that I could supplement all day long, all year long, and it's still barely going to break the barrier. Now, I will say one thing that's important to note is that you have to have good magnesium to convert vitamin D to its final form. So magnesium is another really important mineral that's going to help with that conversion process. And then if you're supplementing with too much vitamin D, it can deplete your vitamin A, because again, God created these things to be in balance. And he did create a lot of these things for us to get in nature and from food. And so when we play the supplement game, sometimes it can be throwing other things off that we don't intend, because that was just not part of the design. So that's, vitamin D also needs to be absorbed with fat. So that's something else. So if you're supplementing, you got to make sure you're, eating or consuming your supplements, maybe with like an omega-3 vitamin as well. I mean, there's just a lot of different things, but the sun, again, too simple, too easy.
Yeah.
You're going to get way more bang for your buck on so many levels. And yeah, so I think you mentioned that. And I think that there are a lot of people out there with a lot of different, genetic functions and things that are working differently in each person's body. And it has to do with, can the body absorb and convert this thing if we get it through a supplement, or is the natural source going to be the easiest way to do it?
Yeah. Well, and beyond, so we talked about how vitamin D helps you feel good, right? The serotonin factor, but vitamin D has a lot of other great benefits for us, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, vitamin D helps to absorb calcium in the gut. And, I don't know how many of your listeners are perimenopausal, menopausal, getting in that direction, but we got to be careful. Osteoporosis, osteopenia, these are big risks when our estrogen is starting to shift. And so being able to absorb calcium is really important. Like I said, it's beneficial for those tight junctions in the intestinal lining. That's really important, that we have intestines that are working for us, and vitamin D helps with that. It helps with the immune system. I mean, we saw during, dare I say the C word, COVID, during the COVID era, right? We saw there are all sorts of studies they were putting out about people that were suffering from the worst cases had the lowest vitamin D levels. And so anything, and I will also say this, usually standard reference ranges are anything over 30 or good, but I would say most people need to be over 50. There's definitely a risk of too high of vitamin D that's going to be a problem. Like with anything, right? Too much of a good thing can be too much. Like the sun, too much of a good thing can be too much. You can burn. Same thing for vitamin D. So you want to be careful, because if you're taking a supplement and it's constipating you, then you're probably taking too much vitamin D, because that can happen as well. So yes, but there are so many benefits of vitamin D. And for me, my main focus is always going to be the gut level, because if the gut is functioning well, everything else is functioning well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think for a lot of my listeners, and this drill as well, coming from a background of eating disorders or disordered eating, and by that I'm including just going on every single diet out there, excluding this whole food group or restricting calories, all the gamut of ways that we've tried to change our bodies. Right? The problem, and I'm going to let you say your favorite phrase. Maybe it's not your favorite phrase. It's my favorite phrase of yours. But the problem is, like, we might eat a certain way, but we're not actually digesting well, right? Erin, come on, give me
My
your
body and stress won't digest.
right. Thank you. So, and it sounds like just being out in the sun a little bit can help that process, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we spend so much of I'm just going to speak generally, women. We hear a lot about what we're supposed to do, what we need to do, whether it's you need to be doing this workout, you need to be eating this amount of food, you need to be doing these kinds of macros or whatever it is. But we don't stop to think, what do I need to do to partner with my body to restore safety in my body? We're listening to what everybody else has to say. And that's the same for when I meet with people. I'm like, okay, so I'm a health coach, sure, but I can't tell you exactly what to do for your body. Only you can decide that. I can help you learn to partner with your body for safety. All of our bodies are working for us so hard, but there's so many different things that are happening to each individual body that a lot of times are outside of our control. The only thing that we can control when we're eating is how much we chew our food. That's it. That is the only part of the digestive process that is under our control. Everything else is left to the mercy of our body and the state of stress we're under. And if we're under a significant amount of stress, like, oh my gosh, I can't eat that. Why am I eating that? What's going to happen if I eat that? It doesn't, game over. We're not digesting that. And it can really cause even more harmful effects in our gut, as far as when we're talking about, creating that enhanced intestinal permeability. And then we have like this breakthrough in our gut lining, and then we've got bacterial debris coming out. And then the cycle just perpetuates, right? So if we're not making neurotransmitters at the gut level, like serotonin and GABA and dopamine and all these things that make us feel good and calm and focused and less anxious, well, we're not going to feel good and less calm and calmer and less anxious about the food that we're eating. We're going to keep feeling anxious about our food, and then we're not digesting it. So then we're not making our neurotransmitters. So it's just this cycle. Yeah. And it needs, so it's like chicken or egg. So what do we do first? Do we help, restore as somebody who works from a functional medicine mode of health coaching, right? Do we work on restoring the gut, or do we work on restoring the thoughts? And I don't know. I think restoring the thoughts is pretty powerful, and restoring the way we talk to ourselves about our food and about our bodies, establishing that, to me, is pretty foundational.
Yeah. Erin, that's so good, because I talk to women every week that are like, yeah, just tell me how to eat. Right? Like that's how we've been programmed, right? Like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but just tell me how to eat and that'll fix it. And it's like, no, it's so it's like deeper than that, and maybe simpler than that in a way, right?
But it's so hard because it goes against everything that we've told ourselves and everything we've been told and all the messages that we're given. It's like we have these to-do lists, and I don't know, maybe I'm over spiritualizing. I probably am, but I do think it's like this whole, like it's a metaphor for grace, right? Like, wait, I don't have to do the checklist. I just have to be. And I think sometimes our bodies are just waiting for us to just be and just sit in the sun and be thankful for wherever you are in your life. And it might not be exactly where you want to be, but one of my favorite quotes from my friend Lucy, she's a therapist. She always says, practice with the body you have today. And when I hear that, it makes me so happy, because we don't do anything with the body we have today. We live for the body we want to have tomorrow, right? But eat for the body you have today. Eat for the neurotransmitters you have today, right? Eat for the vitamin D levels that you have today. Like just be where you are today. It's such a simple concept, but again, like you said, it's so hard to put into practice. And I'm constantly, preaching to myself the same things that I'm saying to other people.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. It's a metaphor for grace. What would it be like to just be? I love it. I love it. Well, Erin, thank you so much for being on the show today. Tell everyone where they can connect with you and listen to your show and learn more about this good stuff.
Yes, my website is sparkingwholeness.com. My Instagram is Sparking Wholeness, and everything is Sparking Wholeness podcast, all of that. So, yeah.
You're just like me.
Yep.
Like
Keep it
everything's
simple.
compared to, except
Mhm.
what's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Well, Erin, thanks so much. I hope that something today has helped inspire you just to go out in the sunshine for a little bit. Like, and Erin, actually, we're closing up here, but those peak hours to get vitamin D, the D Minder app will tell you because that's
It'll
based on where
tell.
you
Yeah.
live, right?
Yeah, because it's so different from where and how close you are to the equator. I mean, people in Maine, I don't know about y'all, but you might have a harder time. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be different for
Yeah,
everybody.
so check out that D Minder app. Erin, thanks again for being on the show. Hey, go get some sun today, my friends. You know, it could just be what you need to start feeling better about your body this summer. Thank you for listening, and I hope something today has helped you stop comparing and start living. Bye bye. The Compared to Show is a proud part of the Life Audio network of podcasts. For great Christian content, check out lifeaudio.com.